In this video, we're going to be taking a look at fraction multiplication. Now, the essential question that we are going to try to answer is, how do you multiply fractions? So you will all need to turn to page 311 in your Go Math book, and we are going to unlock this problem. Now, we are going to take a look at a couple ways to do this. We're going to look at a model, first of all, as we have been doing, and then also a way to do it just using regular paper pencil. So the problem reads, Sasha has 3/4 of a scarf left to knit. If she finishes 1/2 of that today, how much of the scarf will Sasha knit today? Okay, so what we will need to do is multiply 1/2 times 3/5. Now, the first thing we will need to do is we have a model already laid out for us. It is in 5 different sections. Why is it in 5 different sections? Is because the denominator of the scarf left to knit is 5. Okay, and what we need to do is we need to shade in 3/5 of that model yellow. Okay, why 3/5? Because that represents 3/5 of the scarf that is left to knit. So we will use yellow for this, and we'll shade in 3 out of the 5 sections. Make this a little bit bigger here. So we'll make 3 out of these 5 sections yellow. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. Okay, now my next step is we need to draw a horizontal line across the rectangle to show 2 equal parts. Okay, so I will use black ink for this. A little bit smaller of a line, so just about right down the center. Okay, so 2 equal parts there. Alright, now we can see that instead of 5 pieces, my hole is divided up into, now it's 10 different sections. I divided that right in half, so 10 different sections there. So now what we need to do, excuse me, we need to shade in 1/2 of the yellow section blue. Okay, so we can see now that my yellow sections, instead of representing 3/5, this is actually, of my yellow section, we have 6 different sections. So what I need to do is shade in 1/2 of those sections the color blue. So 3 out of the 6 sections here, the color blue. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. Alright, now what we need to do is count the sections that are shaded twice and write a fraction for the parts of the whole that are shaded twice. So we can see there are 3 out of 10 sections shaded 2 times. So 3/10 for the answer of 1/2 times 3/5. Now let's take a look at that next section. It says compare the numerator and denominator of the product with the numerators and denominators of the factors. And let's talk about what we see. So we have the numerator and denominator of the product. We have 3 for the numerator, 10 for the denominator in my product, 1 and 3 for the numerator in my factor, 2 and 5 for the denominator in my factors. Now what do we see? We can see that the numerator of the answer is the product of the numerators of the factors. Okay, and also the denominator of the answer is the product of the denominators of the factors. Now another way to do this is using paper pencil, and we can multiply fractions without using a model. Okay, and first of all, what we can do is multiply the numerator. So we take 1 times 3. Okay, and then we can multiply the denominators, 2 times 5. So we have 1 times 3, 2 times 5. 1 times 3 will give us 3, and 2 times 5 will give us 10. Okay, so we know that Sasha will knit, as we can see here, 3/10 of the scarf today. Okay, now let's jump over to the example problem on page 312. And we have this problem here. It says write the whole number. I'm sorry, we have 4 times 5/12, and we need to write the product in simplest form. Okay, now we have 4 times 5/12, so my first step is we're going to take that 4 and we're just going to put it over 1. Okay, so 4 over 1 now times 5/12. And it is important to remember that whenever you have a whole number, you can just write it over 1 as a fraction. Okay, for example, 8 would be 8 over 1, or the whole number of 13 would be 13 over 1 as a fraction. Okay, now that we have our two fractions, what we're going to do is multiply the numerators together. So we have 4 times 5, and that's going to give me 20. Okay, and then we have 1 times 12, and that's going to give me 12. All right, now we have 20 over 12. Okay, and what that will look like as a fraction, what we need to do is we have 20 over 12. We need to see how many times, what number can both 20 and 12 be divided by. They can both be divided by 4. 20 divided by 4 is 5. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Okay, now 5 over 3 is actually 1 2/3. Okay, so 4 times 5/12 is 5/3, or 1 2/3. Okay, let's take a look at this, at the try this part on page 312. So it says C times 4/5. Now, if C represents 5/8, okay, so first of all, what number does C represent? Okay, we can easily see that C represents 5/8. Now, what we need to do is replace C in the expression with 5/8, since that's what it represents. We need to write this in here. Okay, so now we have 5/8 times 4/5. So what we need to do first of all is multiply the numerators together. 5 times 4 is going to give me 20. Multiply the denominators. 8 times 5 is going to give me 40. And writing this in simplest terms can be reduced all the way down to 1/2. Okay, so C times 4/5 is equal to 1/2 for C equaling 5/8. Okay, now let's take a look at that final question on the page of 312. Okay, so it's asking us, and this goes kind of back to the previous video, since 4/5 is being multiplied by a number less than 1, should the product be greater than or less than 4/5? Now, it's going to be less than 4/5, and remember that whenever you have a fraction less than 1 multiplied by a fraction less than 1 will result in a product less than either factor, because we're finding part of a part. Okay, so it is important to remember that. Okay, let's turn over to page 313, and let's do number 1 together. Then I'll have you do the next few by yourself. So we have 6 over 1 times 3/8. What we need to do is first of all change that whole number to a fraction, 6 over 1. We multiply the numerators together. 6 times 3 giving me 18. Multiply the denominators giving me 8. Okay, taking this down to simplest terms, this could be 9 over 4. And then changing that to a mixed number will be 2 1/4. Now what I want you to do are numbers 2 and also 4 on page 313 all by yourself. When you're finished, I will have the answers for you. So I want you to pause the video now. Okay, you can see my answers and double check to make sure your answers match mine. If they do not, you may need to rewind the video and watch a few steps over again. Now I want you to do this problem, the on your own problem, all by yourself. And when you're finished with it, you can press play and I will have the answer for you. So I want you to pause the video now. Okay, you can see my work that I have there for you and also the answer of 2/3 of the pets. Okay, let's take a look at the algebra part there at the bottom. And we have 2 times C, and make sure you plug in 4/7 for C. Solve this problem and I'll have the answer for you. So pause the video now. Okay, so here's the answer for you, 8/35. Let's try another problem. We have 2/3 times T, and make sure you plug in T 1/8 So I want you to solve this problem now. Okay, here's the answer, 1/12. Make sure your work looks like mine, and make sure you understand the different steps. Okay, final algebra problem. Work this problem out, and make sure when you press play, you look at the answer. So pause the video now. Okay, I have 4 for my answer. I changed that 5 into 5/1, multiplied that by 4/5, gave me 20/5, and changed that to actually just a whole number to the number 4. Okay, I want you to work this test prep problem out all by yourself, and when you're finished, you can press play and I'll have the answer for you. So pause the video now. Okay, the answer to this problem is 1/2. Okay, so make sure that you have that correct answer. Like I said before, if you're not really grasping this concept, please feel free to rewind the video and watch a couple parts over again. Now, the essential question, how do you multiply fractions? And we found throughout this video, what you can do is multiply the numerators together, multiply the denominators together. Then what you need to do is write the product in simplest form. So this concludes the video on on fraction multiplication. If you have any questions about fraction multiplication, please come and see me.